Since starting this podcast, my consistency to it has been tested in a few ways. It's been 3 weeks since I posted a video, but I'm back to it now. In this week's episode, I'll briefly speak about what has tested me in the past month and a half, and then I'll get into a year that nearly broke me. The day I released the introduction episode, one of my longtime friends passed away from complications to MS. Then, the day I was scheduled to record this episode, I received a call from my uncle to inform me that my grandfather, who I spoke about in the first episode, had been hospitalized and wasn't doing very well. My family and I dropped everything and drove 10 hours to see him. I was able to spend some time with him before he started feeling better. My wife and I packed up the kids and headed home for the week with the intent to head back the following weekend. The following Thursday, my uncle called again to say that my grandfather took a turn for the worse and requested to be disconnected from all equipment. We quickly packed, picked the kids up from school, and rushed to get back there. Unfortunately, a couple hours into the drive, my brother called and told us that my grandfather had passed. We did not make it in time, but I was fortunate enough to have spent the previous weekend with him. These last 3 weeks have caused delay and tested my motivation to get back into recording, but here I am and pushing to stay consistent going forward. This will be my last solo episode for a while, and guests will be joining me for future episodes going forward. Welcome to Building Life, where construction meets consciousness. Death is one of the hardest things to accept, and it can test all aspects of your life. It will test your emotions, your motivation, your attitude, and your personal well-being. I want to tell you about a few people in my life that are no longer with us. I'll start by sharing a story about each of them and then speak about what happened. I told you in a previous episode that I used to be a member of a motorcycle club. This story is about my friend Darwin. Darwin was the president of our club, and the night that I got my patch was another member's 40th birthday. That member wanted me to eat mushrooms and have some drinks with him for his party and told me that he had cleared it with all the other members. I was still working behind the bar at the clubhouse as he was handing me beers and mushrooms. Then I got a call from Darwin asking me to pick him up and bring him to the clubhouse. I had to explain to Darwin why I was unable to pick him up, and he just hung up the phone on me. When he got to the clubhouse, him and other members started grinding me about being fucked up and reminded me that I had a job to do. This sent me into a spiral and having a really bad trip. At one point, I said I was too fucked up and needed to go outside to get some fresh air, to which Darwin replied, "Since when do strikers get fucking breaks?" I just turned around and went back to tending the bar, but by this point, my trip was so bad, it was the darkest place I had ever been. After a few minutes of them grinding me some more, and after Darwin chucked an ashtray at me, he came up and said, "Yeah, you need to get some air." I started walking towards the front door when all the members yelled at me at the same time. "Where the fuck are you going?" I turned around and yelled back, "You just fucking told me to go outside." They all started laughing, and then Darwin said, "You can't go out front. You're on steps and you'll get arrested the minute you walk outside. Go out the back." I went into the back lane and started talking with another member that was barbecuing. This guy has always liked to ask questions, so him bombarding me with questions made that trip even darker than it already was. Then he told me I better get back inside and behind the bar. When I got back behind the bar, Darwin yelled to me, "Ashton, what the fuck are you doing?" I just looked up and said, "Honestly, I have no idea anymore. Serving drinks, cleaning tables, dumping ashtrays, what else do you want me to do?" Then Darwin said, "Get the fuck over here." I looked, and I could see he was wearing his leather gloves and his one hand was tucked inside of his vest. My immediate thought was, oh yeah, I'm getting slapped the fuck out. After I walked up to him, he said to me, "We were planning to take care of this later, but you had to get so fucked up you couldn't even function. So I guess we're doing this now." As he pulled his hand out of his vest, he was holding my patch and said, "You earned this patch, and I'm happy to call you my brother." Instantly, that trip changed. It was no longer dark. It was like the fucking lights turned on immediately. Darwin became one of my best friends. Him and I not only shared similar interests, but also wittiness and our sense of humor while busting each other's balls. Darwin left the club and ended up falling deep into hard drugs. Drug use was not uncommon to him, but not in the way it ended up. It started with a cocaine habit that did not stop while also on prescriptions. He ended up so deep into his addiction that he could no longer afford the coke, and someone offered him meth as an alternative. Meth became his new drug of choice until one day he was tweaking so hard and needed to come down, and that's when he tried fentanyl for the first time. He told me later, when he was sober, that he was hooked instantly. All it took was that one hit. After I left another club, Darwin and I reconnected, and he asked me for help to get him sober and to stay sober. For 9 months, he was in and out of treatment. I could not tell you how many times I went and pulled him out of a trap house. The last time I picked him up, I took him to my place out of the city. I was a groomsman at a wedding that weekend, so I dropped him off and checked on him every couple of hours. When I got home, he had left. I tried calling him and started calling all the people I knew he hung out with. No one knew where he was. I was frustrated and sent him a text that said, "I'm not even going to bother looking for you this time. You don't have enough respect for me to answer your phone and let me know what's going on. Why should I care? Good luck. I hope you figure your shit out." This is the last thing that I said to him. Shortly after, I got a call saying they found him dead on a bathroom floor. He was already gone by the time I sent the text, so I'm thankful he did not read it before he passed. One of my oldest friends was a guy named Art. Art and I probably got into more actual fights with each other than most siblings do. We had our spats over the years, but we always ended up squashing it and going right back to day one. One year, his family and mine took a trip to the mountains to go camping, and we ended up in Edmonton for a couple of days and going to the West Edmonton Mall. While standing on the upper level watching the marine life show, we were looking down from above at the sea lions. When they started clapping, I decided to embarrass Art, and as loud as I could, I started to clap and going, "Art, Art, Art." The thing is, I used to do this to him all the time. This is the only time I can recall that he actually got mad at me, though. Everyone was staring at us on the balcony while he was screaming, "Ashton, shut the fuck up!" But that did not stop me. It only made me do it again and louder, making him really mad. Art and I ended up fighting one last time. He was the one that sold the drugs to Darwin, and the last time I spoke to him, I told him I was going to beat his head into the ground. One morning, I had just got home from driving all night and decided to go to sleep for a couple of hours. I had this crazy dream that woke me up at 12:45. In my dream, I was at someone's house sitting on the couch in the living room, and the kitchen was behind me. There was a bunch of people there, but I did not recognize any of the faces or voices. Behind me was a loud bang, and then my body collapsed to the floor. I reached my hand to feel the back of my head, and I could feel blood pouring out. Everything was black, but I heard a voice say, "I'm sorry. I love you, bro." And I immediately woke up. I was drenched in sweat, and that was the most realistic dream I have ever had. Later that afternoon, I got a call from my son's mother, who is now my wife, informing me that she heard Art had passed away. When I was later talking to Art's mom, she told me that he had passed out and fallen in his bedroom at around 12:45, the same time that I had woken up from that dream. He hit his head on the end table and bled out on the floor with his hand holding the back of his head. Art was also addicted to fentanyl. I was mad at him for what happened to Darwin, but I later accepted that happened because they were both addicts, and it could have been the other way around. My cousin Jody was the oldest on my dad's side, and probably the closest family member I had. One year at Christmas, he was banging on the door of my grandma's house looking for my dad. My dad answered the door, but then he came and woke me up. He said, "Jody's looking for someone to party with him. I'm not going, so get up and go with him." Jody and I went to some party at a farmhouse. There was a lot of people there, and we partied until the early morning. When we left, Jody was driving drunk and ended up hitting the ditch. We both got out, and the truck was hung up in deep snow. Jody tried maneuvering the truck back and forth to get unstuck, but eventually leaned his seat back and said, "Fuck it, we'll just wait until the morning," and closed his eyes to go to sleep. I grabbed his cell phone and called my dad. I told him we were stuck and asked him to come and get us. He said, "You're the idiot that went with him." Shocked, I responded by saying, "Are you kidding me? You woke me up and told me I had to go with him." He just said, "You still went," and hung the phone up on me. I know my dad was just trying to be funny, but still, fucking asshole. After my dad hung up, I jumped out of the truck to take a piss and noticed that the wheel hubs were not locked into four-wheel drive. I locked the passenger side, walked around to the driver's side and locked it. Opened the driver's door and told Jody to move over. I jumped in the driver's seat and pulled out of the ditch, no problem. As I pulled up to my grandma's house, my dad's car was running, that same old blue rusted out Cadillac, and he was walking out the front door to come and get us. Jody had struggled with pain since that Christmas. On Boxing Day, him and my uncle went hunting as they did every year. But that year, Jody had a hunting accident and shot half of his foot off. The doctors were able to reconstruct his foot, but not without a lot of problems and a lot of painkillers over the years. After that, Jody got deeper into drinking and drugs. At one point, he told me he wished they would have cut off his foot instead of repairing it. The one year on St. Patrick's Day, Jody called me and asked me to bring him some of his work clothes and his welding gear. He was leaving the next morning for a stint on a mine site in Ontario. When I dropped off his stuff, he was pretty drunk and I told him to pack it in. He turned to walk into the house and said he was going to bed right away. He didn't. Jody left shortly after, picked up some coke, and went to a house party. From what I understand, he went into the kitchen, opened the bag he just bought, and did one line, and his heart stopped right there. The bag that he had bought was laced with fentanyl. The next day, I was at work when my dad called me. He knew how close Jody and I were. His family did not have a funeral for him, so I put together a jam night at my wife's bar. Jody loved live music, so that seemed fitting for him. I played on stage that night, which was the first time in over 10 years, and I still don't play in front of people now. These 3 deaths happened within 6 months of each other, and were all fentanyl related. This period of time almost broke me, and it most definitely tested me ways that I could have never imagined. I was heartbroken by the loss. I felt guilty, as if I did not do enough. I lost motivation in myself and in relationships. I pushed people away. These were all tests. In construction, we test at various stages of the build. We test the soil before placing a foundation. We test the concrete for compressive strength and types of fractures. Engineers design based on data from these tests. We complete energy modeling based on tested systems. And we test the building envelope with blower door tests. After the passing of Darwin, Art, and Jody, I started to see these tests as ways that test my own strength, testing rigidity, testing deflection, testing limits. There's not much of a lesson in this episode other than don't let these things break you and ask for help if you need it. I know I did. This isn't just my journey, it's ours. Building Life is a community for guys who want to build something stronger inside and out. I want to hear from you. Addiction can be like a crack in a foundation. It can go unnoticed until it's too late, and sometimes that is when everything crumbles. When a crack in a foundation is noticed, we provide supports to help stabilize through the repair process. And sometimes that foundation will rely on those supports for the life of the building, like adding bracing to a basement wall. If you know someone suffering from addiction, please offer to support and do not give up on them. You will not be able to force anything, but you can be there when they need and offer safe and stable help. I believe that when they are ready and comfortable enough with the support system, they will accept the help. That's it for this episode of Building Life, where construction meets consciousness. I'm AC Strong, and I'm honored to be on this journey with you. I don't have all the answers, but I got a toolbox full of construction wisdom and a heart ready to learn. If you're ready to build a stronger, more meaningful life, hit that subscribe button so we can keep building together. Share your thoughts in the comments or send me a message. Until next time, grab your tools, physical or spiritual, and let's get to work. See you on the job site.